All right, everybody, calm down, okay, calm down. We're on lockdown, all right? Everybody, just calm down. Ah! As you can see, I've prepared myself for the apocalypse. I've got some of the essential white gold here, which I'm sure will be a form of U.S. currency in a few weeks. And I've also got some anti-death spray going on over here, so I think I'm good. I think I'm all right. What's going on, everybody? It's that time of the year again where I talk about the movies from last year. Now, like I said before last year's video, these are just my opinions. I'm not a professional film critic, but I did see a lot of movies last year, so let's talk about them. And of course, I have to make a fair warning since we are talking about movies here, and this is the internet. Give me one sec here. Nope. Ah, there's the one. Alright! Whoa, guys, did you know that Kevin Hart can be in a movie where he's like not yelling every 5 seconds? Because I sure didn't. The Upside was actually a pretty decent movie. I had an enjoyable time watching it. Kevin Hart actually showed some acting range other than just yelling. Bryan Cranston was great in the movie. I mean, he's great in everything. He's a fantastic actor. The cinematography was pretty decent. There was some pretty decent shots. Good, not great. The main problem I had with the movie was that it kind of just ends very abruptly. Like, it doesn't really have an ending, it just stops. Like, the main character's talking and it's like, well, I guess we truly are the Upside. Wait, where are these credits coming from? What's going on? But all in all, pretty enjoyable piece of film. I liked it.
They called me Mr. Glass.
Disappointing does not even describe how I feel about this movie. Okay, let's start with the positives. Samuel Jackson's actually pretty good in the movie because, you know, Samuel Jackson's really talented. Bruce Willis, for the first time in 15 years, actually knows what movie he's in and actually seems like he cares. The beginning premise was actually pretty cool. I liked seeing these characters inside of some like psychiatric ward, and the main lady's trying to convince them that maybe they don't have superpowers, but then you start to question maybe they do have superpowers. You're just as confused as the main characters are, really. It's pretty ingenious. But the rest of the things in this movie, oh boy! First off, Sarah Paulson is just terrible in this movie. She is awful. Her character is so annoying. I don't know if it was the script or the director, but she just comes off as super irritating to listen to all the time. And the movie kind of really leads up to nothing. It looks like it's going somewhere and then nothing. They're supposed to be leading up to this really big important fight where Mr. Glass is gonna kill a bunch of people unless David Dunn stops him. But no, it just has a fight in the courtyard and there's barely any superhero stuff. And it has one of these endings that think it's way deeper than it actually is. Hold on, let me do the thing one more time. Okay, so all the characters end up dying in really stupid ways. David Dunn gets drowned in a puddle. Arthur Crumb gets shot. Mr. Glass gets punched to death, I think. Like Arthur Crumb kind of just goes like, ugh. Holy crap, that actually kind of hurt. And then he ends up falling over and dying. It's one of those endings that thinks, yes, they were truly super, but were they? They were very human. They died in a human way. It's very deep and it's very philosophical. And the ending basically has Mr. Glass filming the superpower people doing superpower things and releasing it on the internet, which maybe 15 years ago would have meant something, but now if you release something and you claim it's real, there's gonna be a bunch of people saying fake and gay under the comments, and maybe it'll go viral for like a week and everyone will forget about it. So it's really not that deep. Also, the League of Clovers, that secret organization that goes out and kills superheroes? Really stupid addition. Stupid. God, this movie just really pissed me off.
We are women, we are free.
Shut the fuck up!
Before we talk about this movie, I actually have to read this notice here, given to me straight from the internet, so. There are more reasons that I dislike this movie besides the fact that the main character is female. The fact that the main character has a vagina has nothing to do with my criticisms. Thank you, and I am not a sexist. So the first 15 minutes of Captain Marvel were probably the most boring moments I've seen in an MCU movie. There's no character development, and what character development they try to have with Captain Marvel and the other people is just non-existent. The CGI was honestly passable at best. The action scenes for this being a Marvel movie were really not that memorable. Jude Law honestly acts like a cartoon character and not in the fun way, just in the over-the-top and stupid way. Ben Mendelsohn actually does pretty well in this movie, and I like the story with the scrolls. I thought that was actually kind of interesting. Samuel Jackson actually is pretty charismatic. As we all know, Samuel Jackson's just a fun time to watch no matter what movie he's in, really. But I don't know if it was the writing or the directing or Brie Larson, but Captain Marvel is just a boring character in this movie. She honestly acts like a plank of wood. There's a few moments where they try to make her a little bit like quippy and sarcastic, like Tony Stark-ish type things. But whether it's the delivery or the writing, it just does not work. She's constantly being told that she's over emotional. She needs to take control of her emotions because that's what the women's movies do. You gotta tell the woman character that she's too emotional, and then she proves that maybe having emotions is a good thing. Well, for that story to actually work, your character needs to actually show emotion and not be a boring, stale piece of bread. I'm gonna speak very shortly about this, but the marketing behind the movie was completely obnoxious. Brie Larson's comments about not wanting white male opinions were completely unneeded and unnecessary. This whole feministy, yay women movement behind the movie, it was kind of just very vain and didn't really have much to do with the movie and was just trying to get more people to see the movie. Well, Brie Larson, I know you didn't want the opinions of white male critics, but I'm a black Mexican male, so I guess my opinion's valid then, huh? Your movie wasn't that good.
It's called hentai, and it's art.
On the other hand, though, we actually have a pretty good representation of a female super person. Alita Battle Angel was honestly pretty fun to watch. All the actors do a good job. Christoph Waltz and the main actress, what's her name? Rosa Salazar. They both give a pretty heartfelt performance. The action scenes were really exhilarating, especially where she plays that game where she's on stilts and she's like punching stuff. It's all just really, really fun. And it even leads up to a sequel, which I'm honestly kind of excited for. So go Alita Battle Angel. Good for you.
Everything is tough.
Let's give it up for another disappointing sequel. Lego Movie 2, there's honestly not a lot to say about it. I really liked the first one, but the second one was just pretty disappointing. Kind of a bland story. And while there's still good voice acting in it, and the animation's pretty great, and all the actors play their part except for a certain actress who shall not be named, whom I've never enjoyed a performance from, and I don't want to watch anything they're in, really. It's just like it was kind of a bland story, and the family dynamic from the first one, it wasn't as good in this movie. Yeah, I just wasn't feeling this movie as much. Some funny jokes, but other than that, kind of forgettable sequel. Overall, I enjoyed this movie, but it's a lot of plot holes to be had in this movie. Like, for instance, how do all those clone people get matching red fabric and make a bunch of outfits when they're underground? What did they hope to accomplish by holding hands across America? If the young girl was switched as a child, how come she grew up to have a very intense vocabulary when underground it didn't really seem like they have speech and she should have the vocabulary of like a 9-year-old? It's just things like that. When you really think about the movie, which the movie I'm sure wants you to do, you just kind of find things that don't make a whole lot of sense. But I thought all the acting was pretty fantastic, especially from Lupita Nyong'o, who plays 2 roles in this movie. I mean, everyone does, but she does a really good job as both. This is more of a comedy horror movie, and the comedy and horror mix pretty well. I know a lot of people didn't like the fact that there was too much comedy, but I'm a bit of a scaredy cat, and so that kind of works for me. The score was actually pretty good. That orchestral version of I Got 5 on it was like, it was just creepy and weird. You just imagine someone doing some creepy stuff while listening to it. But the messages at the end really became too convoluted. Like, it seemed like there was a certain message, but it kind of just got mixed in with a bunch of other messages that it's trying to promote. So all in all, a decent film, but kind of drops the ball a little bit. I loved this movie! Shazam's very reminiscent of the old Sam Raimi Spider-Man films, which is a really good sign because I love all those films. Even 3. You know, there were parts that were cheesy, but it was kind of self-aware about it, and the movie actually had a lot of heart put into it. This is really a movie about family, and the family dynamic is just very touching and very emotional. Mark Strong was very menacing. Jack Dylan Grazer was pretty funny. Zachary Levi was absolutely fantastic as his character. The main kid, Asher Angel, was good, but sometimes he seemed like he was too stoic, especially when compared to what he's supposed to turn into, which is Zachary Levi. It just doesn't seem like that kid would grow up to be Zachary Levi exactly. But all in all, the movie was just really fun and funny. There's a bit at the end where I won't spoil right before the credits happen, which had me laughing so hard in the movie theater. It was amazing. But I'll just say we get a special visit from a special friend.
Hey, I can fly.
He can fly.
I can fly.
So these Disney remakes just aren't gonna stop, are they? There really just isn't much to say about this movie. Effects were okay. Story was okay. Tim Burton directed it, but it wasn't very Tim Burton-y, which would at least make it to where I would have something to talk about. It was kind of just a forgettable movie that there really just isn't much to say about, and I don't see myself going back to it anytime soon. Love the story, love the character development. It took it slow in the beginning, which I was totally fine with. There was a lot of really emotional scenes in the beginning. And the rest of the movie is just really cool action, really awesome fan service, which I am totally okay with. The effects were pretty good. A lot of the comedy worked out for me. There was a lot of people that were getting into like the science of the time travel and how they don't think it makes a whole lot of sense. And I'm just like, okay, Bill Nye, calm down there. It's a Marvel movie. Just calm down. You'll be okay. I do admit, I think Avengers Infinity War is probably a little bit better, but this movie was still really good. All the deaths seemed justified. All the emotional moments were emotional. All the funny moments were funny. It's really had a great time watching it.
Spider-Man does whatever a spider can. Spins a web any...
Not a crazy amount to say about this movie, but it was good. I liked it. I actually really enjoyed it. There isn't too many negatives, but except for the cinematography was really, really bland, which honestly kind of sucks because they mentioned the Spidey sense in this movie a lot, which if you've watched the Sam Raimi movies, you know the Spidey sense has a really cool sound effect when it goes off and the camera shifts and like it zooms in, and there's a lot of really cool stuff they do with that. In here, it's kind of just Spidey sense, Peter Tingle, haha. Jake Gyllenhaal as the villain was really great, and everyone seemed to do a pretty good job. Story was fun. Had a lot of fun watching this movie, so yeah, pretty good.
Nothing beats a jelly-filled donut.
I guess Ryan Reynolds is just gonna play Deadpool from now on in like every role, which I guess I'm okay with because he's pretty good at it. I saw people tearing this film apart, and I just don't know why. It's a Pokemon movie. Chill out. I had a lot of fun. I know a lot of people were talking about the designs, but honestly, I didn't mind them. If a Pikachu existed in the real world, it would probably be furry. If a Squirtle existed in the real world, it'd probably be slimy like a real turtle. Like I said before, Ryan Reynolds as Pikachu basically just plays Deadpool, like kind of that self-aware comedy, which I actually enjoyed. I thought he was pretty funny in the movie. Not every joke lands, but it's pretty entertaining to watch. In Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, I hated Justin Smith's character. He was so annoying, but in here, I feel like he actually shows some promise. He actually does a decent job in acting. The story, I will admit, is pretty bland. It's just another evil corporate guy wanting to tear down the local gymnasium. I mean, turn everybody into Pokemon. Okay, well, the end goal of what the evil villain wants is pretty original because it's a Pokemon movie, but it's something we've seen, an evil corporate guy wanting to destroy the world or save the world because he cares about people, but he's just doing it in a very wrong way. I do kind of wish this story was about a trainer who was going out and doing stuff kind of like the games and the anime, but for what we got, I enjoyed it. I had fun.
It's a bird.
It's a plane.
It's Superman.
Okay, so I'm gonna get serious for a second. I don't blame the human race as a whole for a lot of things. Climate change, not the entire human race's fault, right? War, few corrupt individuals that want just to fight each other, right? Governmental corruption, not the entire human race's fault, right? But not making this movie a hit in theaters? I will never forgive the human race for that. The idea alone of Brightburn is just awesome. An evil Superman kid. That's great. That's awesome. Mixing the superhero genre with horror hasn't really been done before. Pretty awesome. The acting was pretty good from everybody, even the main kid. I will admit there's a lot of flaws in this movie that I can see. Sometimes there might be a few too many jump scares if you don't like that sort of thing, and I wish Brandon got a little more development because in the movie it's kind of just like his ship contacts him and he's like, oh, I'm evil now, I gotta take over the world. I would have liked Brandon to like slowly discover his powers and kind of like slowly make bad choices that lead him to become a villain. Like he's getting bullied and like he's just tired of it and he like punches a kid and the kid flies through something and dies and he's like, oh crap, what what am I doing? Like, and then just bad decision after that, just he becomes more and more selfish and more of a villain. Having maybe like 15 to 20 minutes longer in this movie wouldn't have killed it. It would have probably made it better. But man, like just personally though, like this movie just hits everything that I want to see. And I freaking love this movie. And you want to know what really pisses me off? A few weeks later, Annabelle, the third Annabelle movie, came out in theaters, and it was a huge hit. This one made barely double its budget back. But no, the third movie in a series of big giant jump scare fests from the connected Conjuring universe makes millions and millions and millions of dollars. And it's all your fault. The John Wick movies are just proof that action movies don't have to be stupid and brainless. They can be masterfully crafted and well made. The action was just so thrilling to watch. The story was fun. Not a whole lot to say about it, but it's just very simple yet extremely well made. And I think all the John Wick movies are fantastic. Disney remake! Will Smith was good. Only because he was playing Will Smith the entire time, which, you know, isn't much, but I liked it. The main lead was okay. The love interest was super bland. And my God, what did they do to the villain? You took one of the most evil, elegant, intimidating villains and turned him into just some guy. Also, what was the point of having Iago still talk if you were going to take away his personality and just make him a parrot? The sets were pretty uninspired and really closed in for some reason. The editing was pretty bad. Like, there was parts where they were singing and it was very clear that the footage of the dancers was sped up to match the song for some reason. The cinematography was really bad. The songs were basically ruined compared to the originals, except maybe Friend Like Me, which was pretty decent. Although for some reason they gave Jasmine a song when she's getting captured. They were trying to do like a, yeah, girl power, feminism message, but the song really comes out of nowhere and makes no sense to be there because she's singing while she's getting captured. Yeah, I did not like this movie one bit.
Andy's coming, everybody! Back to your places, hurry!
Not only do we keep getting Disney remakes, we get a few horror remakes too, which I guess is a thing. I like the premise of the Child's Play remake, like having an evil AI kind of like go crazy. It's pretty cool premise, it's a pretty cool idea. There's a lot of chance for social commentary, which they actually don't really take the opportunity to do. Mark Hamill's actually really wasted. Like, why would you get Mark Hamill to play Chucky if you're gonna just have him kind of do the same, hello Andy, how are you today, voice for most of the movie? The main kids were okay. Aubrey Plaza seems like she's drunk. The jump scares in this movie were so laughably bad. There was literally one that goes like this. Hey kid, do you want some pizza for dinner? Wasn't a terrible movie, but it was just pretty forgettable, and I doubt it's gonna get a sequel.
You are a toy!
Why were so many people so harsh on this movie? I actually had a really good time. The animation was pretty good. The new character, Sporky, was pretty cool too. Key and Peele were absolutely hilarious. The animation was absolutely gorgeous. The ending was pretty emotional. There was a deeper discussion to be had about self-worth and what it means to be alive from a Toy Story movie. Yeah, all in all, not too much to say about this movie, but I enjoyed it a lot.
Lions and tigers and bears.
Oh my.
Lion King, more like Lion Kill Me. I hate this movie. I won't say too much here because I actually plan on making a video about this movie because I hate it so much. It was an unnecessary movie. The animation, while kind of cool looking, didn't really work for this type of story because it's emotional and you're making the animals look like real emotionless animals. The actors all sounded like they were recording their first take and the sound guy was just like, yeah, no, yeah, that's good, that's good, yeah, good, sound good. Beyonce was just beyond awful in this movie. They ruined Scar. They took scenes out for no reason, which were integral to the story. I absolutely detest this film.
I make this look good.
You know, as good and even bad as the Men in Black films get, the one word I'd never thought I'd use to describe a Men in Black film was forgettable. there really isn't a lot to say about this movie. The main actors do what every garbage comedy does now, where they kind of just try to one-up each other and quip each other. The villains in Men in Black films are usually really memorable, but in here, they are literal wastes of space. Oh, I mean, the villain was actually Liam Neeson. It was a well thought out twist that was totally deserved, and a bunch of people totally didn't see coming. I was so bored watching this movie. A cameo from Will Smith or Tommy Lee Jones would have at least made it worth the watch, but I see no reason to even watch this movie. What kind of world do we live in where I like a Dora the Explorer movie more than a Men in Black film and a bunch of Disney movies? This movie, I can't find myself hating this movie. It's so weird and out there and bonkers that it's just a lot of fun. The main girl really gives it her all to pull off this like really happy-go-lucky persona, and it's just infectious. It wasn't a great movie, it wasn't even that good, but it was entertaining, it was fun.
I am a man.
The reactions from older people were probably the funniest part about this movie. They were just like, how dare they show these kids cursing? How dare they? How dare that's just inappropriate. Inappropriate. No child of mine will be seeing this movie or speaking in such a manner. It's like, dude, have you ever met a middle schooler? They're a bunch of idiots, and they all talk like this. I actually enjoy this movie. It's very reminiscent of like classic movies about a group of friends like The Sandlot, except a lot more edgy. Yeah, this movie's kind of edgy. Not every joke landed, but I did think that it was a funny movie. The story was one of those things that to an adult would seem like a very simple task, but to a kid seems like this giant grand adventure, which, I mean, that's pretty much what a lot of kids' movies are. There's some pretty good drone shots when the kids are riding bikes. Not a whole lot to say, just a decent comedy movie.
You know, we're living in a society.
I genuinely loved this movie. The score, the acting, the cinematography, the writing, the story, all absolutely fantastic and masterfully crafted. Who knew the guy who directed the Hangover movies could produce some really high art? Joaquin Phoenix really knocks it out of the park with this movie. And he just loses himself in the role. The themes of class discrimination, the media, mental health, they were all beautifully discussed in this movie, and it was very deep. Which is why I don't know why the media insisted on saying this movie was going to inspire a shooting or that it was racist, and didn't actually discuss the themes of the movie that were portrayed in the actual movie. For a bunch of people that claim to be about mental health and class discrimination, I saw no major media sites talking about it. All they wanted to do was write stupid hit pieces about how the Joker's a white, racist male, and he feels entitled. Like, no, you idiot, did you actually watch the movie? I understand if you had legitimate reasons not to like it, but did you even watch it? Enough about that. I'm gonna give myself a heart attack if I keep talking about this.
We're going on a trip in our favorite rocket ship.
It's really upsetting that Bohemian Rhapsody was nominated for like all these awards when Rocketman, a much better movie, was nominated just for Best Original Song and nothing else. This movie was a biopic, but it was done so creatively, so differently. It was very surreal. The songs were actually sung by Taron Egerton, and they were beautiful, and the story was fun and emotional, and I just really liked this movie. It's a shame that it wasn't really given as much of a chance as Bohemian Rhapsody was, which was, now looking at it, kind of an okay film, with the main positive being the main actor and the music. But pretty much everything about this movie was done so well and so much better.
Spooky, scary skeletons.
This movie is literally the definition of mediocre animated children's film. It's just okay enough not to hate, but not really good enough to be remembered. Some of the jokes were kind of funny. A lot of the actors actually did a pretty good job voice acting, especially Nick Kroll as Uncle Fester. That was actually really funny. The designs were pretty cool and felt like they belonged to the Addams Family universe, but the animation seemed really stiff and cheap for some reason. Also, the story was really uninspired because it was about some real estate lady who's like, I don't like these Addams families, they sure are weird, and I don't want any weird things in my town. It's like, no, I don't care about this real estate lady. I'm watching an Addams Family movie because I want to see the Addams Family.
My disappointment is immeasurable, and my day is ruined.
You had 2 tries. 2! And you screwed it up both times. This movie was so uninteresting and boring. Now, the premise of Jean Grey, like, fighting with her friends because there's this power she doesn't know how to control, and she's fighting with herself and trying to combat her inner demons, is actually a pretty interesting premise for a movie. And with the right directors and writing, could be really awesome. It's like they were writing the story in the boardroom and some jackoff from Fox goes like, "Duh, enough with this emotional garbage. Let's throw some aliens in there, bro." Like, no, Jean Grey's struggle with her friends is good enough. I don't need these Captain Marvel Skrull rejects. Mystique's death was cheap and undeserved and really kind of just out of nowhere. Every actor felt like they were on horse tranquilizers. No one really cared about making this movie, so why should I care about talking about it? The ending fight was kind of cool though.
Things that could have been brought to my attention yesterday!
They should remake this movie with the same premise, but instead of, now listen to me, the Beatles, we live in a world without Imagine Dragons. It's an interesting premise. It was fleshed out kind of decently. The acting was pretty good and the music was pretty good despite me not being a huge Beatles fan. The romance of the movie kind of takes more of the forefront as opposed to developing the story and the world without the Beatles, which I kind of didn't like. I'd rather see what the world is like without the Beatles and how it's affected. There was a few jokes about it, but not really that much depth. Ed Sheeran has like a pretty semi-big role in this movie, which is kind of odd. I mean, he's an okay actor, but I mean, he's no like Jared Leto. It was a decent rom-com with a pretty interesting premise that wasn't fleshed out that much, but it was okay. I enjoyed it. For those of you who saw the ending of Teen Titans Go to the Movies and you saw this after credit scene,
"This is the Teen Titans. Can anyone hear us? We think we found a way back."
and you were super excited, is this really what you thought would come of it? This movie was incredibly okay. It was cool to see the original Teen Titans again, but it seemed like they took the 2D models from the original show, placed them in Flash, and kind of moved them around cheaply. I mean, you compare the animation of the original show, which was all hand-drawn and looked crisp and clean. This one just looks kind of cheap. It's kind of that like same self-aware, self-deprecation type humor that Teen Titans Go is known for and was shown in the other movie. But honestly, I prefer the other movie over this. It had a lot more of that dark humor, and it had God's gift to cinema, Will Arnett as Slade, which was amazing. Also, there's some moments where it seems like the original Teen Titans are out of character because they're like singing and stuff like that, and they're doing silly fun songs, and it just doesn't seem like it's something that they would do. Honestly, the best part of this movie is that it comes with a few episodes of Teen Titans, the original series, and Teen Titans Go if you like that too.
You have made me very angry.
I don't really have a joke here. This is honestly just a pretty good animated film. The first movie was kind of bland and forgettable, but this one actually has a lot of really funny moments. This one leans into a little bit more of that surreal and dark humor, honestly, which is pretty great. I laughed a pretty decent amount. The animation was beautiful. Huge improvement from the first one. All of the voice actors had great deliveries and comedic timing. It was honestly just a fun animated film, and I recommend it.
Fire! 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 Fire!
Okay, Jesse Eisenberg, I forgive you for Batman vs. Superman. We good here? This movie kind of starts as like a regular quirky indie film with some quirky fun humor, which I'm totally into, which would have been just fine the way that was. But man, this movie gets dark. I won't spoil it because it's best to go in blind, but this movie does get very dark. It definitely flips your expectations. Jesse Eisenberg kind of plays his like usual kind of awkward self, but I mean, it works for the story. Just an awesome movie from a relatively newer production company. Man, if Bleecker Street and A24 keep pulling out these quality products, the demise of Hollywood will be sooner than we may think. Spin-off from franchise where Big Car does Vroom Vroom and Vin Diesel does a family. This movie is so stupid, and I absolutely loved it. I was so entertained despite never seeing a Fast and Furious movie in my entire life. This movie was basically junk food for your brain. Tasty junk food. The Rock and Jason Statham have some decent chemistry. There's a pretty funny cameo from Kevin Hart. Idris Elba is an over-the-top cartoon villain, but in the good way, not in the way where Jude Law is from Captain Marvel. This one's actually very entertaining. Also, I really like the cover of Time in a Bottle. It's done by an artist named Youngblood. Pretty good cover that they do specifically for this movie. Just a well-made, fun, zoom movie. Alright guys, it's time for It 2. I really enjoyed the first It. It was a great mix of like fantasy and horror and comedy with some really good child actors. This one had elements of that. To start, the adult versions of all these characters were really spot on. They were all really good actors. There's some fun scares to be had, but for the most part, the scares weren't as good as the first one, and the story gets really needlessly convoluted for some reason. There just isn't a lot to say about this movie. It was a decent horror flick, but it's not as good as the first one.
It's still a mystery.
From the director of Star Wars The Last Jedi. Wait, don't click off. Wait. This is just a very enjoyable mystery film with an amazing cast that all do a really, really good job. Daniel Craig's accent is both hilarious and very, very believable. It's a good mystery film that keeps you guessing and you never really know where it's going. Might I say it subverts your expectations. The movie even has a dash of social commentary. I'm looking forward to Rian Johnson's future films that aren't Star Wars related. Hopefully that doesn't happen again.
Son of a bitch!
Just what was this movie? This movie, if I could even call it that, was just astounding. Absolutely nothing in this movie makes sense. The CGI was awful and the designs were terrible. Things happen at random and there's never really an explanation. The songs weren't really that enjoyable, which is normally a saving grace for terrible musicals. The ending keeps cutting back to Judi Dench while she's singing that cats are indeed not dogs. And despite all that, I highly recommend watching this movie, especially with friends. I saw this movie in an empty theater with my brother and my girlfriend on Christmas Eve, mind you, and I had the time of my life watching this movie. It's so enjoyably awful and nonsensical that it really has to be seen to be believed. I really can't bring myself to hate this movie. Nostalgia. Man, what a depressing end to the Skywalker saga. This movie really is just a fetch quest, and not a good one either. And it just keeps throwing nostalgia at you like, hey, remember Lando? Hey, remember Palpatine? Oh yeah, and Palpatine. Having him in this movie makes absolutely no sense. And the fact they threw in the element that Rey is his daughter is so stupid. I don't want to imagine this guy balls deep in a young woman, okay? Adam Driver was pretty good in this movie, but I mean, he's just a really good actor, so that, you know, that just goes without saying. They really wasted their opportunity in these movies with Finn. You have this character that was a stormtrooper and he got out and escaped, and you could have had him learn that he was force sensitive, and then he takes down the evil, oppressive organization that captured him in the first place. That would have been awesome. But no, instead he pushed him in the background and have him just shout, "Ray! Ray!" And they take the death and memory wipe of two main characters, which is very emotional, and they kind of just throw it out the window and be like, nah, we're just kidding, nah, they're fine. They're fine. Totally destroying the emotional weight of those scenes you just showed. Maybe I need to do a video on this movie too, because I honestly have a lot of problems with it.
We're spies!
Will Smith movie. That's... This movie was honestly a lot better than I thought it would be. I laughed a pretty decent amount. The animation, while not being super crazy Disney quality, was pretty decent. The story was pretty interesting. DJ Khaled was in it for some reason. Not a whole lot to say, but not a bad movie. And at least it wasn't an Ice Age sequel.
The price is wrong, bitch.
Oh yeah, that's right. Adam Sandler's a genuinely talented actor, capable of many things, and doesn't just belong in movies where there's farts and people laugh and fall over. Uncut Gems is just an anxiety-filled, really fun but also depressing ride. The main character Adam Sandler plays, you both hate him and empathize with him a lot. Every actor does a fantastic job, even Kevin Garnett of all people. Kind of random, but he works in the movie. It's very synth-heavy and it's very erratic, but also kind of calming. Just like the movie, really. The ending might piss you off, honestly, but I think it's a pretty good end. I think it's fitting. Just an all-around fantastic movie. And Adam Sandler got snubbed at the Oscars. The first Jumanji was surprisingly good comedy, and this one's no different. It was pretty fun. The actors did a good job of playing and being different people, and I thought it was pretty fun. There was some cute video game nods. Not a game changer, but pretty decent fun comedy for the family. Although it leaves room for another sequel, which is kind of odd. I mean, where will they go with this? Jumanji in space? Oh wait, that already happened.
My
You know, I think the real lighthouse are the friends we made along the way. This movie is really weird, but it kind of relishes in its weirdness. It's a psychological horror movie, but not horror in the sense that there's a bunch of really loud jump scares and loud noises. It kind of just messes with your mind and kind of just plays with you a little bit. You feel just as mentally confused as Robert Pattinson's character does. Robert Pattinson, awesome. Willem Dafoe, super awesome in this movie. Both of them were snubbed by the Oscar as well, just like Adam Sandler. The cinematography was fantastic. The sets were apparently real. A lot of the crew had to face harsh weather elements to get this movie even made, which is awesome, but also really scary. The fact that the movie's black and white and the 4:3 ratio really enhances the experience of the film. I probably need to watch it again to truly appreciate it, but right now I'm really digging this movie. It's really good. Another one from A24. You know, it was really confusing to see some people call this movie like super nationalist and pro-Trump when it's about an event that happened over 100 years ago in a country that's across the world. Visually, this movie is a masterpiece. The cinematography is great. Everything seems very purposeful in the way that it's shot. If you guys haven't seen the movie, it's all shot to look like it's one continuous take. And I think they did a pretty good job at it. The emotional moments were heavy, and the score was pretty good too. It was very impactful. Although it was really weird at the end to see Benedict Cumberbatch kind of just there. Like, it could have been swapped out with any actor, but they chose Benedict Cumberbatch. It's a little bit distracting because it's so obviously Benedict Cumberbatch. But overall, this movie was pretty darn good. Let's hit the waves, bro. Let's do some surfing, man. Totally. No, but seriously, this movie is actually very serious and very emotional. I think this is gonna go down as one of my, at least in the top 20 films of all time. The cinematography was absolutely beautiful in this movie. A lot of the camera movements were very erratic, and they followed the character in a very smooth way, and it was just beautifully done. The story is very non-traditional because something happens to where the story changes a lot, and I won't spoil it, but you'll know when you see it. But I actually really enjoyed that it took that chance of being very non-traditional in its storytelling. The soundtrack is actually full of a lot of licensed music, and it all works really well in the scenes that they're put in. Not like garbage Suicide Squad where they play Eminem for no reason, and at the end they're just like, mama, ooh. Every actor really gives it their all and gives a very raw and emotional performance. The dialogue makes these characters seem like real people. It's a very well written movie. The story surrounds a black family and kind of just treats them like a family. Representation done right. I genuinely adore this film, and honestly, it makes me want to get into filmmaking. Whew, I know I didn't cover every movie that came out last year, but I only had a limited amount of time to watch movies. That's a lie, I had plenty of time to watch them, it's just that I didn't get to them. I know there's a few movies that I missed, so I'll put some pictures of ones that I missed that I heard were really good right here in this little spot right here. But yeah, I mean, the movies that were good were really good, and the movies that weren't were pretty boring. But that's the end of this video. If you liked it, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, all the YouTube jazz that the YouTubers always say. And hopefully 2020 is a better year for movies. Oh wait, movie theaters are closed right now because of all this stuff. Time to save up money to buy me a nice setup at home to watch movies. I'll see you guys later. Stay safe out there, everybody, okay?